Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Wallace, and welcome to the first Comsi Therapeutics podcast for parents, where we explore different topics in children's mental health. So, whether your child seems to cope well with their emotions or needs some guidance to help them through some of life's tough emotional challenges, I'll provide you with some tools we use in the clinics to help your child become more emotionally resilient. That seems to be a bit of a superpower these days, as life is a little more complex compared to perhaps when you and I were growing up. So let me introduce myself and tell you why we decided to do this podcast. I'm a physician and an addiction neuroscientist, and I specialize in tech-based addictions like excessive gaming or excessive social media use. A few years ago, I helped create a company called Comsi Therapeutics. We're currently working on ways to make traditional therapy more fun and engaging for children. One of the ways we do this is through video games. These are really fun, even when adults play them, but they're not just for entertainment. Our games teach real concepts that we use in cognitive behavioral therapy to help your child learn about how their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interconnected, and help them learn effective ways to cope with difficult or overwhelming emotions. And because of my background in gaming addiction, or rather gaming disorder as it's called, we make sure that the games are designed in a way that teaches and promotes responsible use. As we design these games, we realize how extremely important it is to help children from an early age to learn how to master their own emotions so that mental health issues don't easily progress as they get older. But we see that children's mental health issues are becoming a growing problem all over the world, and children in general are finding it difficult to cope. They're overwhelmed with so many decisions about how they can focus their time and energy. They're continuously connected to their friends through social media, and although they may appear at times to be idle in front of their screens, there's a frenzy of activity going on in their brains as they're having to process and make sense of some pretty complex situations that they're seeing at an early age. So overall, they have less downtime, and the simple pleasures of life may become more difficult for them to enjoy. As a parent or an adult in a child's life, we're their frontline support. And that can be tough because a lot of times we're still trying to figure out how to cope with everything that life is throwing at us. But for a child, they're often experiencing these emotions for the first time, and they look to you for guidance. So in this series, we're going to discuss some of the core concepts we focus on in our games that you can use in your daily life as you spend time with your child, helping them develop and grow into happy, healthy young people. The programs will give you some tools that you can use to check in with your kids to see how they're doing. In fact, checking in is going to be a common theme throughout these short podcasts. It's really important that we maintain that connection and spend quality time to learn what's on their mind, so you can offer support whenever they need it. When I'm working with a child and we're going to have a conversation that focuses on emotions, I like to make sure that we're on the same page. In other words, I want to know that when I'm talking about stress and anxiety, they understand what that means. This is especially important for younger children, around 7 to 8 years old. And the reason why this is a good way to start is that when you understand your emotions and their effects on your thoughts, feelings, and actions, it makes it easier to identify them and adjust the way that you respond to them. When you adapt and respond well to stressful emotions or situations, we call this emotional resilience. And that's one of the most valuable tools we can have in life because, as you know, life can be pretty stressful and you need to be able to bounce back emotionally. So when the child's relaxed or just not going through or experiencing an extreme emotion, I like to ask 3 questions. Let's use stress as an example. How do you feel stress? How does it affect your thoughts? And how does it affect your behaviors? The answers may surprise you, and you may end up actually learning something new about your child and how they perceive or process things. So with that first question, how do you feel when you're stressed? They may feel a tightness in their chest. They may feel that their breathing gets faster. They may say their stomach hurts or their palms get sweaty. You can tell them how you experience stress as well, so that your child knows they're not alone in feeling these emotions in their body. Sharing your experiences helps the conversation to flow, and it doesn't seem like an interrogation to them. Next, ask, how does stress affect your thoughts? They may say that they think of one thing over and over again, or that their thoughts are scattered and they can't concentrate. They may have worried, nervous, or guilty thoughts, depending on what's causing their stress. And again, you can share with them how stress affects your thoughts. Finally, you can ask how stress affects their behavior. Some children will rock back and forth, bite their nails, or rub their hands together when they're stressed. It may make them yell at their siblings or get really quiet. Their answer is important because this is what you, as an adult, will see first when they're feeling stressed. And when you see it, you can help guide them through that emotion so they come out on the other side feeling better, more resilient, more powerful, and perhaps even more confident. To do that, it's important to find out what things make them feel stressed. We call these triggers, and we'll talk more about those in detail in later programs. But today, just consider asking that question. What makes you feel stressed? And be prepared for some minor insults. Kids don't hold back. Sometimes their answers are pretty hurtful. I've heard so many kids tell their parents, "You stress me out because you're always late, and that makes me late, and it's hard to be calm when I'm embarrassed getting to school late every day." Or maybe the dog barking is causing them to be stressed, or some sort of pressure at school. Whatever it is, learn about their triggers. Do you share some of their triggers? If so, share with them that makes you feel stressed as well. Now comes the important bit. How do you deal with that emotion? We're going to explore all sorts of ways to deal with strong emotions throughout this series. But for today, consider helping your child choose one simple way that they can deal with stress when they start to feel it. So when they notice their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are starting to show signs of being stressed, what is one thing that they can do to calm their thoughts, to ease their feelings, and to shift those behaviors to something more supportive? If it's something they can control, then help them learn to control or avoid the trigger. For example, maybe let the barking dog out to the backyard to play, or making sure that their schoolwork's done so they're not going to stress about assignments. Or maybe you all need to wake up 10 or 15 minutes earlier so that you're no longer late to school. If it's a feeling that's recurring, perhaps let them know that they can talk to you about their feelings. Or perhaps they may want to talk to their friends. Maybe listen to music, sing their favorite song. Maybe read or watch something to interrupt that emotion so that they can take a step back for a moment and then deal with the triggers in a more healthy way when they're not so overwhelmed. Whatever they choose, help them next time you see that they're stressed. Point them in the right direction to help them cope, and when they've gotten through that stress, let them know that they handled it well. Positive reinforcement works so well when a child feels pride in how they handle themselves. So let's wrap up this podcast, and we're going to review. First, spend time checking in with your kids. Ask them how certain emotions affect their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. It doesn't just have to be stress. It can be any emotion that you choose to talk about. Next, find out what triggers those emotions and discuss healthy ways to cope with those emotions. And when you see them experiencing a tough emotion, guide them through it. You can be subtle about it and just remind them of the coping strategy that they chose. And don't forget to tell them that they did well after they deal with a strong emotion. Each time they successfully work through difficult emotions, they'll likely become more resilient as they continue on the path to a healthy mindset. And never lose sight of the fact that your support and communication is vital to them on that journey. In next week's podcast, we'll discuss a simple breathing exercise to help children reset and refocus when they're feeling stressed. Until then, the team at Comsi and I wish you a calm and healthy week.